Radiant team ban.
Greetings and salutations to the fans. Welcome into our second best of three of the day, and it is a big one. Win or go home. Actually, it's not win or go home. It's win and go LAN. Whichever team is able to prevail here today will punch their ticket to Shanghai and the G-1 League Live LAN Finals. Whichever team loses will fall down to meet Team Liquid, who advanced past EG earlier today. We got FNATIC and Alliance on the way. FNATIC enters play today, a team that was on top of the world in the late months of winter, but which has been struggling a lot in the early months of spring. One of the most consistently dominant teams on the planet from January through March. They now find themselves riding the line at 500 this month, sporting a mediocre 8-10 record through April. For all of their struggles leading up to G1, though, FNATIC is a team that is often a victim of their own success. Part of the reason they find themselves so streaky in both wins and losses is because they're always in the playoffs of every single event they enter, meaning they tend to dominate group and preliminary stages before running into stiff competition for long stretches of time. And they still almost always manage to find a way to win as much as they lose. For example, that record I mentioned that they have through April, that includes postseason games in the Raycall D2L, EMS1, Premier League, Star Series 4, all across the last 40 days. Today is old hat for FNATIC, just another day in the office when they're one win away from punching their ticket to yet another live final. But they're going to be trying to get that win against an Alliance squad that has played as well as any team on the planet, and which hung a lopsided 2-0 loss on FNATIC when they met a mere 48 hours ago in the TPL4 playoffs. Now, introducing Alliance, I should say, perhaps the most convincing way to describe them is to read off a simple list of events. DreamHack Winter 2012, EMS Spring Cup 2, EMS Spring Cup 3, EMS Spring Cup 4, Star Series 5, and DreamHack Invitational. For most teams, just being a part of that many events, let alone going deep in them, would be a solid 6 months of work. But for Alliance, this is the list of events they've won, finished in first place, dating back to November of last year. Yeah, I think it's safe to say Alliance has quietly become one of the most consistently dominant teams in the West. Instead of more tournament names, how about some numbers? 16. That's how many series Alliance has won out of their last 20. 15. That's how many series they've won in April alone. 5. That's how many series in a row they've won in the last week alone. But now the most important number. 1. That's how many more wins they need to once again find themselves competing for another banner to hang in the rafters. And their opponents today are a team they know well and have beaten recently. One more number. 2. 2 games out of 3. That's all they'll need to punch their ticket to Shanghai. I'm here on One More Game TV2. I'm EC. Thanks for joining us for the broadcast and joining me on the analytical side of things, EG's own Fear. Fear, how you doing, my friend?
5 seconds.
Pretty good, man. Glad to be back. This is one hell of a game. Watch it, I guess. Draft is well underway.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. So, I mean, you're a guy who's well acquainted with both of these teams. So why don't you go ahead and give me some quick thoughts? I mean, from where you sit in the analysis, yeah, the analyst chair. Give me, like, if you're coming into this, what's your scouting report on both sides?
Dire team pick.
Well, I think FNATIC actually they played recently. They had a stand-in, and I think actually United States. He's in the United States right now, so have been playing without him the last day or so, which is actually going to hurt them a lot because I think it's going to give him a big ping difference from US. But besides that, it'll be interesting if he goes solo mid with that ping again. It's going to be really rough for him, but maybe they switch it up. FNATIC is a team known to switch their roles around. Maybe he'll go to a support role, which is a little less ping dependent than a solo mid. But we'll see how that goes. But Alliance right now, they got their classic, you know, Chen, Syllabear, the Admiral Bulldog, Syllabear, the Aki Chen, and now they got the Rubik for EGM. This is a classic 3 heroes for not only just pushing, but it fits like just, you know, the high priority heroes that Alliance likes to have. So they've got a solid draft coming out. But the FNATIC as well, they've got the huge team fight to deal with it. They've got the Magnus, Gyro, and the Darkseer. So if they get caught in that combo, they have a way to deal with this big push.
Yeah, that's kind of what immediately jumps out as well. When you see Alliance, if you watch Alliance play a lot of Dota, you know how they like to play. They play a very grinded out style, very methodical, very mechanical, and they just depend on having very good movement, good communication, good shot calling, and as always, good play out of every position. They're just one of those really well-rounded teams that really doesn't have weak link. FNATIC is a lot the same, but they do tend to be a little bit riskier. They do like to run a lot of two carry lineups. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case here. I mean, Magnus, he does get a lot of farm priority early and does tend to continue to have at least a little bit as time wears on. Darkseer has a bit of farm priority, usually going to be looking to rush up a mech among other very important items. But as you had mentioned, when you look at Alliance's lineup, this is a team that wants to push and fight early, but FNATIC has already drafted in their front three heroes a really tough lineup to crack. I mean, pushing into a Magnus once he's level 6 with the potential to drop the hammer, have Gyrocopter call down and Darkseer vacuum into it, it makes it a little tough to play aggressive.
Yeah, it's FNATIC typically they like to play a somewhat greedy style, but against these alliance heroes like Chen Silver, you can't do it. So what they're doing right now is they're actually not going to play in a greedy style at all. They're becoming well prepared for this push and making sure they have plenty of AoE to deal with it does come down the line. But the Alliance is not, they're also known for like picking these heroes and just falling back and maybe picking Loda, PL, or an anti-mage or something like that, and just like kind of trick you thinking you're going to push you, well prepare yourself, have nice AoE, then out of nowhere an anti-mage comes out and they aim for late game instead. That's not something unheard of. And they're also known for, just picking a hero and just going all in push, but I really don't think they're going to do that against these. I think they're going to aim for getting Lotus hero being a late game carry in this.
I totally agree. When I look at Alliance, a hero that I think would fit in very well with everything you just shine some light on. Very good insight and commentary as always, my friend. And then we see the Alchemist ban, and if you saw Alliance versus Na'Vi, you know exactly why FNATIC would ban that out. But anyway, I'm thinking of Luna. Honestly, Luna would fit in very well with Alliance. That would free them up to run Admiral Bulldog on the offlane Lone Druid. Chen plus Rubik plus Luna is going to be a very, very safe and stable defensive tri-lane. That's going to give them the extra push power if they do want to force the issue with early glaives, or just going off of Lunar Blessing. The bonus damage that you get from that, of course, applies in an AoE, so that helps out absolutely everyone. And that's a hero that I've seen Loda run frequently. He does like to run a Luna. It gives you that late game carry potential you had talked about, but it also synergizes well with their team as it is, and gives them a little bit more team fight early on with the strength of Eclipse.
Right, Luna could be a great pick for them. It's like a classic pick when you pick it with the Chen. It's just get the auras with the Rubik aura, you get the aura from the Luna, just go together, have the bear and the Chen tank a little bit. But I do imagine they go down a split push route. More than likely it would be split push because they don't want to fight 5v5 versus that. They really don't.
Right.
They're some of the 3 strongest 5v5 heroes you find in Dota 2 right now.
Remaining.
So it's, unless they have some cute way of dealing with it, which I can't think of any hero that could help them crack that, other than just straight up winning team fights. Maybe Night Stalker for S4 is what they're looking for. One of those heroes that just kind of spreads the map open a little bit, gets a couple pickoffs, don't allow them to get to 5v5. A hero like that could be very good for them. They still need S4's hero, and they also need Lotus. So I'm just curious. It's either going to be like a Puck or a Quap or, Night Stalker for S4, I think, here.
Well, the Puck pick kind of jumps out as well. And you just named 2 excellent heroes. Not going to be a Puck now. Yep, exactly. So now it comes down to how aggressive Alliance wants to play it. I was going to say Puck is a bit more of a, an all-around hero. Queen of Pain really shines whenever she can be played aggressively. And we'll see if they want to prioritize the mid or go ahead and grab Lotus Hero now. While we're waiting to see that pick come out, talk to me a bit about FNATIC. I mean, obviously they've got their mid, got what should ostensibly be a jungler or an off-laner in the Darkseer. Gyrocopter most likely going to be run in the defensive tri-lane. What kind of support you think are going to fit in well here?
Yeah, FNATIC's going to need to pick up
5 seconds remaining.
Definitely. I think that Gyrocopter's a hero that kind of needs a stun. They might pick up the Bane because how it's banned, actually, they won't pick it up. They banned all the great supports they could get, so their options are really going to be limited. I'll have to look at the to actually see what they actually got left, because they're being limited by quite a bit by picking. That's always the risk when you pick 3 cores right away off the bat. They're just going to focus down all the good supports you can get.
Right.
That's going to hurt you a lot. I mean, right now the THD would have been great for them as well, because call down, vacuum, and an ice path on top of that would add even more to the team fight.
Right.
And all these other heroes, they need some type of FNATIC though. What would they really play as a supporter? They play a lot of weird support sometimes. There's still, I believe there's a Shadow Demon left in the That could be something they could look for, but it's not, honestly, it's not that good versus the heroes that Alliance has right now. Like, maybe Alliance will reveal one of their carries now, and then Shadow Demon is always usually targeted towards, like, okay, Shadow Demons, that's actually something. That's actually goes with the Aura strat a little bit. Instead of the Luna, Shadow Fiend's going to be farming up most likely in that A lane. Or it's a mid Shadow Fiend. S4 can play that as well. But yeah, it's actually not bad at all because that's a hero that's really good versus Magnus. So I do expect that to go mid to be.
Yep, I agree. I think the Shadow Fiend pick there is absolutely brilliant because what they're going to be looking for, and now and as you said, if that's S4, that gives them 3 sources of damage, and Shadow Fiend doesn't need a lot to be relevant in the early game and in the mid game. You know, just the power of Shadow Rays alone, plus Necromastery, that's going to give him some right click. And he's gonna, you know, Shadow Fiend does have pretty decent damage on his auto attacks. When you have a Lone Druid up front to tank through damage, you have Chin's creeps to tank through damage, and Shen to help heal. That just mitigates a lot of weaknesses that Shadow Fiend tends to have, and it's going to allow them to take the fight much more effectively to FNATIC. And I definitely see out of Alliance that Shadow Fiend pickup being a more aggressive-oriented kind of a pickup. Now for FNATIC, Shadow Demon is still available. They're going to go with Tidehunter. So you want to talk about a little bit of team fight, my friend.
Yeah, jeez. Like, their options for support are extremely limited because they didn't pick any supports in the first phase, and in the second phase, all the ones that they probably wanted got banned out. And Shadow Demon is not good here. Like, Shadow Demon is good versus melee carries, basically. Very, very, very good versus melee. Against range heroes like Shadow Fiend and Lone Druid, it's not that great, and everything else it'll provide is not good as well.
Remaining.
I would actually like to see something even like an Ancient Apparition, deal with the Chen, have a little more teamfight global presence, could be very good for them. And actually they take a Beastmaster, so this is going to be a Lotus Shadow Fiend. Looks like they're going to safe lane this and put the Beast mid. And I'm a little curious as the Beastmaster pickup, not so much because it is an Aura, and they're going down the Aura route, so I guess that part's not surprising at all, but it's just something I don't see S4 playing too much. I think he usually plays more of like the Night Stalker swap role more than he does a Beastmaster, but it's not unheard of this season. They actually go with the Weaver, so they're switching, I think there's a Darkseer jungle, I guess.
Yeah, see, that's kind of what I was thinking. I mean, they needed a little more damage. That's going to give them more AoE fight in terms of magic damage from Shikuchi, but the Beastmaster pick I really like. The only thing I don't like about it for Alliance is I feel like it puts them all in a little bit. I mean, they're going to have to push into fights, and that's going to be so tough to do when you have the initiation and counter of an initiation of a Tidehunter and a Magnus, to say nothing of all the other combinations we had just talked about. And you know, it's great for Weaver if you have a bunch of targets that are caught by cooldown. They are slowed by that. Weaver wants to stay around the periphery of the fight in the early and mid game phases, so he should have a lot of targets that are going to be having a hard time getting around him to pursue out. But you know, it's the big concern I have is, again, Alliance's lineup feels very, very strong, but it's what I would call it feels a little to me. It feels like losing one hero or one real lapse in execution could really set them behind throughout the entirety of the mid game.
Yeah, right now Alliances, they don't have that great a team fight with these heroes whatsoever.
Yep.
The one thing they do have is a Rubik, and the other team does have mass AoE ultimates, so that's something you always need to keep in mind. Like, this Rubik is going to be a team fight monster this game. If their team fights, it has any success, it's most likely going to be off Rubik stealing an RP, a Ravage, a Call Down, or even possibly a Vacuum into a Requiem. He has so many choices here for spells to steal.
We can see both teams making their way towards the same piece of real estate, the Radiant side jungles, where they're going to bump noses. S4 spots out No Tail. They take a look at each other, flip each other the bird. Looks like they're going to decide to wait on their relative posses. And now, with FNATIC moving in, FNATIC's at full strength here. Bulldog's not there, so Alliance not going to want to fight this.
They have no chance here at all because Syllabear, useless level 1. Chen, useless level 1. Shadow Fiend, useless level 1. They can just chase him out of the jungle. There's nothing they can do about it.
You see an aggressive ward goes down, and FNATIC asserting their own dominance. Once they back out, I will run through the lineups. As you mentioned, the level 1 advantage very heavily in favor of FNATIC squad. Taking a look at the lanes, I would imagine it's just going to be very, very quiet. And, you know, when I look at Alliance's lineup, what immediately jumps out is, one, they're going to have to hit a very good timing. They need to not only do well in their lanes, but when they decide to actually push. I mean, taking in a tier 1 in what is likely to be a lightly contested defensive tri-lane in bottom, that's not the problem. But when they start to group as 5, that's when things I think are going to get a little bit scary for Alliance. Because if they lose 1 or 2 team fights, how do you recover against a team like FNATIC has?
Yeah, that's the thing with the lineup that Alliance has. There's not much recovery / turtle potential with their lineup at all. And there's a DD Weaver actually bottom. He might get a little greedy here and try to go for something on one of these squishy supports, but thinks better of it. Actually, they're gonna run a really, what I would consider clowny aggressive tri-lane, but it's smart because putting pressure on this lane is almost really, it's going to be very, very important because Shadow Fiend is really bad in tri-lanes. And Rubik, he's okay, but Rubik is only good when, he's only as good as his partners, basically. The telekinesis itself is not so good, but if it's paired up with another ability that's hard to hit, then it becomes very good. But there's nothing really like that in this lane. This is a very weak coming out from them. They're going to rely on Chen a lot. And mid is actually S4. This Gyro wouldn't be deep on him, but nothing's happening.
And Gyro's going to be able to harass the hell out of S4. Talking about this tri-lane, I'll tell you what, you know, now that you mention it, you know, it seems, I like the word you use, clowny. It does feel a little bit clowny. But when you think about it, it's actually really safe for FNATIC, because Trixie's not going to have a problem getting away. He's in trouble with Shikuchi. No Tail's going to have a point in a surge at level 2. Then you just have to worry about the Tidehunter, who's a little beefy in and of his own right. So as long as Fly doesn't get caught out, they're going to be able to take some chances and still have the chance to get away before there's any real reaction, just because, as you said, Rubik's good, but he doesn't have anything like a Lina, like a Shadow Demon, like a Leshrac to really be there to punish heroes. He doesn't have a carry like a Lifestealer to punish them after a telekinesis, so we'll keep an eye on that. We're going to go ahead and run through our full lineups while we can. S4 is mentioned, taking some abuse from Era here in mid. He's on the Beastmaster. Chen going to be handled by Ake. One of his, actually, there's the Courier.
Invisibility.
And yeah, the Courier's actually taking a spot here and takes a little bit of abuse. And yeah, I want to say we saw this done the other day, just flying him around trying to block the camps.
Kaipi always does that, I think. Kaipi always gets the early crow against Chen and Enchantress or other jungle heroes and just blocks camps with it early game. I think that's one of the first teams I've ever seen just that regularly.
Here in mid, we got a Tidehunter under cover of an Invis. He's nut to butt with S4. Let's see if they want to go for it. He's got 1 point in the gush. That's about it. Right now, he's just soaking experience. And there it is. They're going to gush him out. Here comes Era. They waited for the creeps to go away. Rocket Barrage is going to be eating him up. That should be our first blood. And no, he ducks through the trees. Barely able to juke right, then juke left and find some safety. So big opportunity missed there for FNATIC in mid.
Yeah, that was great by S4. That was kind of a risky kill because they had to dive with the Rocket Barrage, and it's really easy to juke Rocket Barrage in the fogs, but S4 played it perfectly and just got out just barely.
Keeping an eye on Captain Bamboo, or Captain Bamboo, or whatever his name is.
Bamboo, yeah.
Keeping an eye on him. He actually did fail to block this camp, so they did get one decent camp spawn in the pool camp. He got there about 1 second too late. I like the way they're doing it, too. He's just flying back to base, and he goes out on a suicide run and hopes that no one's there waiting. But we're 3.5 minutes in. No kills on the board quite yet. Druid is actually doing extraordinarily well out here. He's got 17 last hits. He is up against the mag, so that's not a big surprise. But given Admiral Bulldog early farm, especially whenever you see Loda really struggling, he is really having a tough time. Only 7 last hits right now. And, you know, he's going to be able to carry the weight a lot given how much pressure FNATIC is putting on Loda.
Yeah, this Lone Druid is going to pay off, like, big time, because the Lone Druid is one of the best solo heroes in the game, period. But he's especially good versus melee heroes like Magnus. This is just a lost lane for Magnus, unless he just bottle crows like crazy. This is the strength of FNATIC, though. It's like, I used the word clowny before, but it's kind of their playstyle. You never know what they're going to do, and that's their strength. Because there's no way they expected this aggressive tri-lane. Who would have expected this? No one would expect this. And that's what they do all the time, and it makes them very, very, very hard to read. And the Shadow Fiend pick is starting to feel a little greedy now, because as usual, when you pick a Shadow Fiend, and if it isn't in a great 1v1 situation mid, it has a very hard time. Oh, Loda raise. I'm casually hitting the ground.
Who needs mana, right? Well, this is the hero that Loda, as you mentioned. I've seen Loda play Fiend before, but it is not like what I would say is in his wheelhouse. It's not a hero he runs super often, like a Luna, like a Lifestealer, and so on and so forth, like a Phantom Lancer even. So, gonna be a little out of his comfort zone. And when you look at FNATIC, I mean, the Tidehunter pickup was probably the biggest surprise. As you mentioned, they did really need a support, and their list was short in terms of who was actually there. But I really like it, and it's working out extremely well down in this lane for them. Loda finally getting some last hits. He's got 16 stacks on Necromastery. So, at what point, Fear, if you're in the shoes of Loda, do you just say, screw it, let's push this tower down, or at least try to? Oh, hang on, first blood. Gotta go in mid. Got there just in time to see it. Ake using Test of Faith off of EGM's gank to get that first blood on the board, so Alliance makes up a little ground there.
That's actually something they really needed, because they need the X factor, which was going to be Ake. He's the jungler, he's going to be getting the levels, he's going to have the smoke. He's able to gank any lane he really wants to. Probably going to gank the Magnus, because it's very hard to gank a Magnus with that skewer, but he can easily pick on Gyrocopter mid.
Down here we can see Trixie and Loda exchanging pleasantries. At what point do you begin to worry about Bulldog if you're in FNATIC shoes? I mean, as you said, it's pretty obviously a lost lane. They know the good and the bad of what they were getting. Oh, nice deny from Ake there, denying it from the high ground, on the rune, I should say. But at what point do you, if you're in FNATIC shoes, do you go, you know what, Bulldog's a liability. Let's do something about this.
Right about now. I think they're gonna... The RP is available for Magnus right now, so as soon as they can possibly get up... They need 2 heroes up there. I'm just looking at mid. They're just trying to counter gank on mid. Their supports right here really want this kill on that score.
There's the call down. Gush will allow him to be in with it. They're gonna clean him up easily. And as good as that is, I totally agree with you, and that's why I asked him...
Trixie.
Yep. No, that's fine. I got there just in time to see it. Just in time to see Weaver caught out. So, Weaver can get away, but you can't just let him hang around like that, or you can't just expect him to not hang around and punish you if you do hang around too much. But anyway, as good as that gank was in mid, that's kind of why I asked the question is, you know, they get S4, that's great. Is that really as high value for their time, though, as a potential gank on Druid could have been?
But I think the problem they had with the Druid right now is with how low level their supports are right now and what they offer. I don't think they feel like they could kill the Druid right now, and I completely agree. Like, he's sitting up there with 1200 HP. If you drop all your spells on him, there's that chance that you just don't even kill him because he's so tanky right now with the low levels they have on the supports.
Here in mid, we can see a lot of attention being given. Ake has hooked up with S4, guarding the Master of Beast. No tails there with Era.
Bot lane again, too.
And we're going to see time-lapse sped. They're going to get a kill on Loda. Losing Loda, quite a big deal. They might get EGM. He doesn't have a gush, though. Trixie.
Probably gonna dive this. They'll dive this for sure.
Yep, Shikuchi's in. They know where he's most likely going. They just passed him. And Ty taking it. Ty Dubby actually, EGM is going to telekinesis him. He is going to end up paying for it, but Trixie able to survive. Little greedy there. He actually had him juked out. And now the TP comes in from Loda, back up and fighting, going to pursue out the Tide. Tide does not have boots, so he is moving quite slow. There's a Mr. A's. And now he's going to turn to go on Trixie. Needs to pick a target. Doesn't end up getting either of them, at least for the moment. They do have a sentry in position now. No tails there, and sends off the Weaver with a surge. So Loda scared the hell out of him, but couldn't get another kill on the board.
Yeah, unfortunately, like you said, bottom lane Hani's here, scotted out by EGM. They might go on EGM here.
EGM is, whoa, RP was wound up, and telekinesis interrupts it. He's still looking for a target. He's got help coming with Ake. Ake shows his face. That's going to prompt him to withdraw. And Hani was in the process. He was winding up to drop the hammer and interrupted by telekinesis, so everyone makes it away unscathed. Admiral Bulldog, in the meantime, though, happy to take advantage of the empty lane, laying into this tier 1 top.
Yeah, one thing that FNATIC needs to be a little careful of is that they're trying to apply a lot of pressure, and they're going mid now and get a lot of the ganks off, but the only problem with that is if they get under-leveled from doing this for too long, they're going to have problems defending this push. So, actually, No-Tail's going to get roared in mid.
The stomp from the Centaur led things off. They do manage to clean him up. It was a very nice net, then the stomp, then the roar, as you had said. So Alliance continuing to go blow for blow. I think they're actually managing this fairly well. You know, the way the lanes worked out, obviously not optimal, especially for Loda. And, of course, S4 getting ganked out, so on and so forth. But the fact that it's 3-3 right now, Loda is still trying to find his farm. He's caught back up at least marginally. He's at 40 last hits. He's in the top 3. Beastmaster and Druid are ahead by miles, but those are his teammates. So he's actually right where he needs to be, especially in comparison to the Gyrocopter.
Yeah, like every kill this game means a lot, much more than usual games actually, because it's going to determine how the game's going to be played out. If FNATIC would choose a more risky style to try and go for kills, if they get these kills, it's going to slow down the push. And late game, I think it's undisputed that they're going to be in favor late game with all these ultimates at their disposal. But at the same time, is if FNATIC goes in and gets a little too greedy and they get under-leveled and they don't come out on top in these ganks and they die too much, it's going to be very easy for Alliance just to go together and push, so they need to just be really careful on how they play this.
The last time we saw Loda in action was against Na'Vi in the winners bracket semifinals, where they knocked them down on the way to where they are right now. And we saw a phenomenal performance on Alchemist, where he built a Shadow Blade. And really, this kind of has that same feel. When I look at this lineup, when I look at what they're going to want to be trying to do, I can imagine Loda getting an early Shadow Blade and then just looking to capitalize on the pure amount of damage input or damage output that a Shadow Fiend can have between his ultimate, the right clicks with full stack Necromastery, and just allow that to open things up and, as you said, get that level of damage. Don't allow them. Oh, wow. Gonna be roared, and now he's caught with the root. He is gonna stretch it out, but it doesn't matter. The Panda gets the kill in the end. And FNATIC.
Those mistakes that I'm talking about that they can't make. And Era got rooted first hit. Oh my god.
Another root. The axe is not going to catch up. If he had been rooted there, would have been the funniest thing in history. But as is, the menagerie, the Panda, his two Ursa buddies, I will never call them Hellbear Smashers except in irony. The Hellbear Smashers, and I just broke my own rule. The Smashers, the Bear, and the Centaur now going to work in mid. And really right now, FNATIC seems to be in a bit of disarray. I just look around the map and see a lot of heroes doing a lot of nothing.
Yeah, they're trying too hard to disrupt Alliance's game plan of getting... They're afraid of them grouping up and pushing, and they want to kind of just mess with that before it even happens. And I think it's the wrong call. I think the call they should be making is get their levels and deal with it later just by having superior team fight. Right.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think we were both on the same page there. When you looked at their lineup, you see the Tide, you see the Mag, you see the call down from Gyrocopter, you see Darkseer. That, to me, is not a team that should be afraid to 5-on-5 fight. I mean, granted, yeah, I mean, they're a little thin on damage. They'll be really reliant on abilities like Rocket Barrage and on Weaver being alive and getting damage done on high-priority targets. But when you have that much to fall back on, it seems to me just making sure you stay even in levels would just about be adequate in terms of trying to deal with the early push potential that Alliance happens to have.
Yeah, it would have been. They're just, they wanted to punish the greed that was coming out of Alliance, and it's natural. If teams pick Shadow Fiend, you know they're safe laning, that hero is not built for safe lane. That is a hero that is, like, very... He does nothing at level 1. Level 2, he doesn't do anything either, and at level 3, he starts getting better, but during that time, he can completely take control of the lane, and they wanted to punish that, and they've been overextending, honestly. They just need to sit back, get their levels, just be a little more careful. And to credit to Alliances, they've had really good positioning this game and counter ganking all the time. So Alliance has also been smelling that out nicely. And the Beastmaster is a great hero to punish counter gank.
Taking a look at our gold graph, we can see Alliance is definitely rolling. That's actually a little bit higher than I thought it would be. I was thinking it'd be in the range of 3,000-4,000. They're up near 7,500, give or take. Probably closer to 6, actually, in terms of gold lead. The experience is 3,000 in their favor as well. Now, that's got to be a concern. Whenever you look at FNATIC's team, they are a level-dependent team. I mean, before Gyro gets built, gets his items, he's really reliant on having maxed out Flat Cannon, maxed out Rocket Barrage early, level 2 and level 3 cooldown to really give you the damage you want. Same with Weaver. You want him to have max level Shikuchi. You want him to have time lapse as far along as he can, because he's going to need some farm to really give you the right click you want, even with Geminate attack to rely on. So getting behind in levels almost feels to me like it's a bigger liability than falling behind in gold.
Yeah, what's going to happen now is FNATIC is going to need to take some... They're going to need to win some fights now to get back on top of the gold here. They need to use these big ultimates they have, which Tide Ultimate is actually almost online here. Really close to that level 6. And that may be the word go for them. Darkseer is getting... Actually, Darkseer doesn't have a... He's only level 5 at 14 minutes. And that's really just him running around and trying to roam and just not paying off at all. And that's really going to hurt them. And as far as the Shadow Fiend build you're talking about, normally I would agree with you, but usually when you pick heroes like this, and Loda actually is going the same route as I was thinking, you pick heroes like this to push, BKB is going to be great versus FNATIC's team. Not only because they have so many AoE ultimates and spells.
Roar on Honey, 1 second, my friend. He's caught out. There's a Shadow Raise. They're going to try to track him down. He's going to spend RP. And there is help coming. Let's see. They got to be careful here. They're going to re-engage on the S4, but Bulldog and the Panda Bear are going to chase Mag, and Mag gets rooted down. He's cleaned up in the woods. That's the kill they wanted. Is S4 still up and fighting? He is. He's going to end up making it away. Now Loda eating some damage, but will be able to TP away. Another high-priority kill, and look at this in bottom. Freeze up the map as well as they possibly could have. They get a kill, they make it away unscathed, and they're going to take a free tier 1.
Yep, RP's down as well, so they could potentially try for 2 if S4 can successfully pull the creep blade. which it looks like he's going to be able to. If he buys enough time on this bottom lane with the lone druid, they can get 2 towers here. Or they're just going to take one trade and they're going to have to TP back for this one bottom.
They're going to TP on in, but look at the damage already being done. I mean, coming in here, they are just going to back. I was going to say they might try to weigh the advantages, but as it stands, S4 and Bulldog looking for a target. They've moved back out in top, but they're just basically bouncing around the map and spreading FNATIC too thin.
Yeah, it's getting really rough. The under-leveled Darkseer is hurting them a ton because right now they've used RP as well, I think twice now, just on trying to save himself. And I think both times he ended up dying anyway. So, Blink Dagger and Esther on top lane. Trixie's gonna get hit by it.
And we see Trixie locked down. He's gonna spend time lapse, and that was right after a root as well. They almost had enough damage, just a little bit short. We see the Spirit Bear has completed his armlet. Haven't talked a whole lot about Bulldog, but again, he's had a really good start. So we knew he'd be up and running with his item progression soon. The armlet, the first item to lead things off. From there, usually, you know, with this lineup, I'm thinking a Maelstrom would just be the most stable way to go.
Yeah, if he's worried about getting some more farm, yes, but otherwise he could go for an Assault Cuirass if they feel like they have the lead, which they do. And the Assault Cuirass is one of those items that allows you to break base much easier. The minus armor and the plus armor for the bear is extremely, extremely useful for breaking tier 3s.
Keep an eye on him, see what direction he wants to go. 5-3, we're 16 minutes in. That gold beginning to get a little ridiculous. We're up near 10,000 to the advantage of Alliance now. Just about 7,500 experience. But and again, you know, the gold differential is a big problem. But I think if I'm in FNATIC shoes, I'm honestly a bit more worried about the levels. As you mentioned, Darkseer just doesn't feel like a Darkseer. Darkseer should be able to find his levels in his gold, and he's got brown boots and a magic stick. Nowhere near an item like a mech, which could make all the difference for this team.
Absolutely. He's like, once you get this far behind, level 6 on a Darkseer at 17 minutes, you just don't see this because you never see Darkseer playing in a tri-lane, like, as, like, the support.
Right.
You don't see that very often. It's very, very rare. And actually, Hani's on top of him, Viz. He might be fishing. There's a lot of heroes nearby, but the Hawk does see them, so...
And Hani, right on top of him, going to go ahead and spin the RP. Doesn't have a whole lot of help coming. He's only going to be able to grab... Actually, he got both of them, and there's the Ravage spin as well. And yeah, that was overkill maybe, but they get the job done. Either way, it's tied up 5-5.
Yeah, they definitely need to get pickoffs like that. That invisibility rune, I guess they didn't know Hani had it, and they paid for it big time, and that's a golden XP that they desperately need.
Take a look at Mag. That puts him that much closer to his Blink Dagger. He's about 500 gold out. Era has yet to show us a big item pickup yet. He did go drums, which is no real surprise. Trez drums, not bad. We'll see if he wants to go with a defensive build, if he wants to go ahead and grab something like a BKB, or if maybe he's thinking some early game damage might be necessary. You know, looking at their lineup again, they are really reliant on him for a lot of their damage. Weaver, of course, is going to benefit a lot from Empower, as will the Gyro. Gyro much more likely to build and use a BKB though, so you can't always rely on that to be sustained damaging. But Loda, with his BKB up, 1,000 gold in the bank, he sits atop the last hits. We'll switch to the net worth, and it's Loda and Admiral Bulldog right where they want to be, number 1, number 2.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of good farm on these carries, but still, if FNATIC, they're never going to be out of this game as long as they have buildings up, obviously, but like, they have this team fight potential where at any point in time they can win a team fight with these heroes, and that's all that really matters for them. So what they need to do is just find these openings like they just did and keep doing that and slow rolling it. If they do find these openings, they're gonna always be in this game.
Looking at the bear, he opted for a Basher. Saw the belt of strength on him, wasn't sure exactly what he wanted to do with it, but do have a Basher out. So definitely looking.
Dagger. Ani, 15 seconds RP too.
Blink was completed in the meantime, as you said. Looks like they're not going to be able to engage and save this tower. Now, this is where Alliance and, you know, talking to Loda, I've had Loda on the cast before and talked to him a lot. The one thing that he told me that they're always worried about in terms of making mistakes, and the one big weakness he's identified a number of times, is he feels like they malinger around too often. They'll get a win, they'll get a free tower, they'll get a game, then hang around too long and allow the enemy to react. This time, though, they're just going to bail out after taking the tier 2. They're going to take a really nice ancient stack, and this hurts the Gyro so badly. It has to.
but the RP is available.
There it is. He's going to drop the hammer. He got everyone. They're going to skewer it back right into the call down. And there's that team fight potential we were talking about. Loda and Bulldog limping their way away. They did manage to get a return kill, and now Trixie might be in trouble. Now he will be able to make it away. They actually managed to somehow almost break even there. And S4 is going to go ahead, blink in with the blink dagger of his own, toss the axes and get another kill. I'm a little dumbfounded at the fact that that broke even. Bulldog's not out of trouble yet as we see Trixie threw out the swarm, but he will be able to TP away. That went about as well as it could have for FNATIC. They caught 4 with a phenomenal RP. They got the call down, but in the end, they just managed to go 3 for 3.
Yeah, I actually didn't see what happened, but Ravage was not used there. And that would have been the game breaker. Maybe it was on cooldown.
I think he got roared by S4, actually, now that I think about it, because S4 wasn't caught with that. And he, I heard a roar, and, it goes into a big cluster like that when you're talking about just that many heroes together. It's hard to see exactly who got it. But it definitely...
No, he missed his...
No problem. He definitely did... Definitely did get the roar off. Either way, the BKBs were up, and it just... And this is kind of what I was talking about. When you look at FNATIC, they've got these great AoE ultimates, but they're really dependent on sustained damage from Era and from our Weaver, played by Trixie, and they really just didn't have it there.
Yeah, actually, the Tide, I did see him. He got stuck on the high ground there, which could happen 2 ways. He either did not get roared, and roar actually pushes targets away from, if you're next to the person that's roared, it could have pushed him up there. Or the Rubik could have threw him up there. One of those two things happened there. I don't know which, but he very well could have been roared and then lifted up there, but either way, the Ravage did not go up. So the good thing for FNATIC is that was an even fight, I think. I think there was 3 for 3 there. They actually got the SF, which is really good, and they still have Ravage up, so that's something that's really good for them.
We can see Loda is on his way to a Shadow Blade now. He's added the Claymore to his inventory, roaming with his teammates. Bulldog's right there with him. And at this point, only 1 outer 2 tower remaining. Can't help but feel like this is a necessity. As scary as it is to engage into these teams, they need to keep the pressure up. Actually, they have 2 outer 2 towers remaining, soon to be 1 if they're able to bring this one down. But, this is where, again, I think it gets a little chancy for Alliance. They have to stay on the enemy side of the map, and they have to continue to get the most out of the lineup as they've drafted it.
Yeah, like, the way they win this, if they're going to win this late game, is just by being way ahead with Roshan kills, gold, and items. They're obviously not going to match team fight. And who's Sentry? Oh, the Sentry just spotted Hani, who's invisible.
Up here's a roar. Hani going to be caught out. Now the call down is going to come to try and bail him out, but they get it before he can RP. Here comes Health, though. Tide's looking for a target. He surges his hand of God, but the RP, or excuse me, the Ravage doesn't do much to Loda. And Rubik managing to steal the Ravage, hasn't even used it. But a big turnaround going the way of Alliance. As you mentioned, that Sentry spotting out Magnus, who was moving under cover of Invis. They drop him before RP comes. The Ravage was there, but the target they had to worry the most about was Loda, who had already used his BKB. They're going to claim a Roshan as well.
Yeah, that's just Aki right there. Being, like, super experienced as a support player and being super experienced in knowing how they lose Rosh fights. Losing Rosh fights is usually against those team fights is because they come from the fog. Right. And they, they just use all these big ultimates. But look at this warding. Just by the, this is simply just so they could get Rosh. They dropped on 2 sentries, 2 obs right next to the Rosh pit. They see everything that's going down. And yeah, that could have been a huge disaster if Hockey didn't have sentries down there spotting out the invisible Magnus, just waiting to get that RP off.
Very well played, and now Alliance looking to press their advantage. Looking to crack the tier 3. RP is going to be up. Ravage will not for 82 seconds anyway. The Bear hitting hard, hitting fast. He is going for an Assault Cuirass after the Basher. So he's got a lot of attack speed. Demolished certainly doing its work. And Loda hitting hard. He's got 31 stacks in the Necro Mastery, as well as his Shadow Blade complete. And they're just going to go for it here. Ravage, still 60 seconds away. They still do have the RP if they want to spend it. Looks like they're just going to fall back, at least for the moment. And the Panda resummoned. Creep Wave should be catching up momentarily. In the meantime, just so much damage coming out of the right click of Loda, to say nothing of Bulldog's Panda, who is already hitting quite hard and quickly. 153 damage a shot.
Big thing's going to be EGM with his Blink Dagger Ravage is available.
And Fly, still 30 seconds out from Ravage. We can see Hani trying to set up shop to the north, and here we go. S4 is going to engage right on the air up. BKB's popped. There's the Ravage, but it does nothing to Loader. They're going to be able to bring him down. Off goes the multi-fly, has to run away now. And yeah, that went about as poorly as it could have. Hani was nowhere near in position to help things out. And this is an example of FNATIC overthinking themselves, I think. That's a triple kill for Bulldog, by the way. But it was, you can see what they were trying to do. Yep, they're going to call the GG.
That was EGM's Ravage, by the way.
They were trying to bring the mag around beside the flank, and he says, I'm going to use it, damn it. But the GG comes out, but you can see what they were trying to do. They were trying to flank around and catch Alliance as they retreated back off of the push. And then the engagement came, though, and he was just way out of position. In the end, though, I'd say you can call that a dominant performance for your 14-8, my friend. And break it down for me as we wait for the Ancient to blow. I mean, we talked about the strengths and weaknesses of both teams, but at what point do you think things really fell apart for FNATIC?
I think FNATIC, the biggest problem they had is they were in the trialing. They shut down Lotus Farm for a little bit. They didn't make the rotation back to their own jungle quick enough. And they stuck around way too long, getting under-leveled and trying ganks on mid that were not successful. So in the end, they just got under-leveled, and they really, really needed levels on their lineup to compete with Alliance's lineup, especially just their lineup in general needs levels. So I felt like they should have just switched back to the dark into the jungle, get this levels up, get this farm up, and just start playing passive after they had a nice laning stage on bot.
14-8, the final kill score. 26 minutes, 11 seconds, all the time it took for Alliance to hang a lopsided Game 1 loss on to FNATIC. And, I mean, honestly, looking at their draft, we both had our doubts, but sometimes I guess you just got to roll with what you know. And they managed to find a way to make it work. Game 1's in the books, and all of a sudden, Alliance is one win away from punching their ticket to Shanghai. FNATIC, though, going to look to turn the bagel into a breadstick and force a Game 3. I'm AC, joined by EG's Own Fear here on One More Game TV 2. Stick with us. Game number 2 of this best of 3 coming up next.